All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this is going to be volume 1 in a new series that I'm starting called Black Man Protect Yourself at All Times. Why am I making a series by that name? Because oftentimes brothers are very fond of talking about the so-called black woman, or as I like to specify, the liberal black woman. Why do I use that term liberal? And I've stated this repetitively on this channel, even though oftentimes pro-black and wokety-woke Negroes, they get upset when I use that term liberal, because they're stuck down that political rabbit hole where they get caught up in the liberal slash conservative or liberal versus conservative slash Democrat versus Republican paradigm. Once again, when I use that term liberal, I don't mean it from a political sense. I mean from an ideological sense, i.e. Luciferianism or Marxism, the love of chaos. Just to get back to the point, so many so-called black men love to talk about the black woman to the point where they develop a crusade against the so-called black woman. And as I tell brothers all the time, you cannot talk about the so-called black woman. All you can do is change yourself. The woman by nature is a follower. Once we change ourselves, they're not going to have any option but to change. And what you'll find, if you understand the so-called woman in general, not just the so-called black woman, but the woman in general, the woman is a creature of options. The more options that she has, the more chaos and anarchy she's going to pursue. So once we stop chasing after them and arguing with them and going back and forth with them and be more concerned with having our own shit in order, you'll find that the so-called black woman or liberal woman period will have fewer and fewer options. That will result in her having to change her ways, because the woman in general is a survivor. She will do what she has to do to survive, even if that means altering her psychological profile, altering her conduct, etc. So that brings us to this case right here with this person, Robin Garth, a so-called liberal black female. And you'll notice that she'll use many of the tactics that the modern day liberal black female likes to use. They like to hide a lot of their quote unquote ratchetness behind a diploma or being a so-called graduate. They love to brag about how they went to this school and that school and how they're still in school to get their 10th degree and blah, blah, blah. But underneath all that nonsense, they're still a liberal black female. They're still dysfunctional. And when I say still, I'm talking about 95%. 95% of these so-called black women in America are liberal of various degrees or varying degrees. So that's something that you have to be aware of. That's why I say, so-called black men, you must protect yourself at all times. What do I mean by that? Do I mean that you can't live life? You can't meet people? Of course not. Just be aware of the potentialities. People, they live their lives according to different facades and masks. So you have to be aware of that. So anyway, let's see how this case is going to go. Of course, they're going to talk about it and I'm going to chime in.
Plaintiff Robin Garth dated the defendant and they had 2 children despite the fact that the defendant said he couldn't have kids. Robin claims the defendant became physically abusive and she was forced to call the police on him after he assaulted her. Robin suing him today for a truck and emotional distress.
And once again, brothers, as I always state in many of these court cases, so many of the issues that I talk about, they tend to intersect in these court cases. So you have oftentimes liberal black females with liberal black men, aka simps / mama's boys, because that's really all a liberal black man is. He starts off as a mama's boy and eventually grows up to become a simp. The simp comes together with the liberal black female. They're both oftentimes very confused and they have no answers. They cannot explain life. They have no wisdom. And therefore they create a child that is confused. And the cycle continues. That's why, once again, my channel is a pro-truth channel geared towards the so-called black man. That's all it's about. It's not a hate women channel. It's not a black man versus black woman channel. It's not a gender war channel. But if you're truly sincere about trying to change and recalibrate what's going on in the so-called black community, you have to forward your message to the man. If you forward your message to the woman, what you're saying is that you're an agent of chaos. That's all that you're saying. And most of these pro-black or woke channels, a lot of these dudes, in their mind, in their conscious mind, they mean well. But they want to talk to all black people. So subconsciously, they're an agent of chaos.
Defendant Eric Matthews says Robin is a liar who had him falsely arrested. Eric.
You'll find that happens a lot as well. The liberal black woman gets together with the liberal black male. They're both dysfunctional, leads to domestic disputes, which leads to the so-called black man getting arrested. Very rarely will the so-called black woman get arrested in a domestic dispute unless she is grossly in the wrong. Very rarely. Oftentimes it will end up that it will be the so-called black man who gets arrested. Even if the house is his or the apartment is in his name, it will be assumed that he is the physical threat. So once again, please keep that in mind. All right. And as I already stated, am I saying that you can't live life? Of course, you want to go out and meet people. Human beings are social animals. You have to go out there and live your life. But just be aware of certain things. That's all.
Eric claims Robin stole all of his clothes and money on Easter Sunday. So
Damn, bro took all his shit on Easter Sunday. You know how these Negroes love Easter.
He's countersuing for the stolen property and emotional distress.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
I recently moved to Springfield, Missouri about 3 years ago to get a new start on life, get away from a lot of the drama, especially with Eric.
All right.
In other words, you had to move to Springfield, Missouri because you're a drama-filled liberal female. You ever notice, brothers? And Eddie Murphy brought this out in his comedy special Raw over 30 years ago. He said a lot of these women, they're never from the town that you meet them in. He said they come to your town and get shy. And that's because the liberal female, she leaves a lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil in her wake. So she has to pick up shop and open up shop somewhere else where people don't know her, where she can try to recreate herself like someone who's a fugitive or a vagabond, somebody who just goes all across America, all across the world, trying to act like they're somebody that they're not because they've left so much turmoil in their wake, man. It's crazy. Once again, so-called black man, protect yourself at all times.
All right.
I moved to Springfield. I decided that I'm going to take my 2 boys. He was in jail, and I was going to get a new start on life. So I graduated with my associate's degree last week on Thursday.
Let me say this, and you'll hear this a lot from the liberal female in general, but the liberal black female in particular, they love to rant and rave about how their significant other is quote-unquote in and out of jail. Oftentimes, their man, quote-unquote, being in and out of jail is a byproduct of those same personality characteristics that attracted the liberal female to that man in the first place, i.e. a love of danger, a love of chaos. Please understand, and I'm sure that many of you brothers know this already, the word thug comes from the word Thugi, which is a Hindu term for the worshippers of Kali or Kali Ma, the mother goddess of death and destruction. That's why you'll find that the liberal female, she is so drawn to so-called thugs because they both emit chaos, right? Once again, all a thug is a venerator, a worshiper of the mother goddess of destruction.
On Thursday, and I also got
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I also got accepted to Missouri State University. I'm going to school to be a CPA, and my minor is going to be human resource management. Thank you.
See what you have. Congratulations. That's all you needed to see,
Yes,
right?
all I needed to see.
I
Yes.
know when I got those letters, admission to undergrad, law school, particularly that state bar.
I always have those letters that says, "We regret."
That's right. We regret to inform you.
Now, it's very obvious that the plaintiff here, the liberal black female, she's trying to impress the judge. And you'll find that most liberal black females try to impress people with their diploma or with their quote-unquote degree. And it's a great thing if you're able to put yourself through a rigorous curriculum and you're able to quote-unquote graduate. But always understand that the reason why you go to college or university is to put yourself in an advantageous position for life after college. That's it. It's not something for you to run around bragging about and trying to elevate yourself about. Because at the end of the day, the so-called university or college system, you're just being put through the rituals of Bacchus. That is it. And I delved into this many videos ago. That is why when you graduate from college or university, you receive what's known as your baccalaureate. The term baccalaureate comes from the term Bacchus. Okay, who? The son of Cush, aka Nimrod. That is all the word Bacchus means. And when you receive your baccalaureate or the laurels of Bacchus, that's why you get the ivy plant on your head. So that's why they call the most prestigious colleges and universities in America Ivy League schools, right? Because that was the venerated plant of Bacchus, the ivy plant.
That's right.
And then I had it highlighted in there. I'm an associate's degree, my associate's of art and business. So you got to kind of. I can find it for you. I'm sorry, I'll find it for you.
I'm proud of you. I want to see it.
Okay. And they don't have it on here, but I'm honored. I have a 3.6 GPA as of now. Wow. So I worked really hard for it. Yeah. Thank you.
You have 2 kids. Are you raising the 2 children alone?
Well, I shouldn't be raising them alone, but we have 2 boys. Me and Eric have been.
Now, brothers, did you hear that? She stated that she should not be raising them alone. I guarantee you that she's not raising them alone. I guarantee you that she's receiving assistance from her mother and most likely the new quote-unquote man in her life. But you'll find with the super liberal black woman, aka the so-called single black mother, that she seeks veneration, so she wants to take credit for those things. And that is why oftentimes they will proactively try to sabotage their so-called relationship with the low-level, simple-minded black simp, aka the liberal black man who she had impregnated her, whether he's a so-called thug or a simp. It's very easy for her to move on to phase 2 once she's done with that person, because there's always a lot of dirt for her to throw on that person, because they make a lot of their dirt open because they have a hard time controlling themselves. So, in other words, to make a long story short, the liberal black woman knows that if she has a child by a so-called thug, once she decides to end the relationship, she can always say, well, he was a degenerate, he was robbing people, he was selling drugs, he was doing this, he was doing that, even though he was doing that when she met him. But his conduct provides an appropriate alibi once it's time for her to terminate the quote-unquote so-called relationship.
Been on and off for the last almost 10 years, and these are 2 beautiful boys.
Let's see them.
Then he told me that, and when we first got together, that he couldn't have kids. And as you see, we have 2 kids. Had the first one the day after my 29th birthday. Anyways.
And when was the last time he was in the household helping to raise them?
Well, he got arrested. He's been arrested on and off since we've been together. He got out of jail in 2015.
So he's been arrested on and off, quote unquote, since you guys have been together. So he was most likely a criminal when you met him. But you decided that you wanted to keep the relationship going. Once again, brothers, and you see this oftentimes on a lot of these channels or a lot of these out where you have so-called black men wanting to go on and on about the black woman and trying to put the onus on the black woman. When you do that, what you're really saying to yourself in your subconscious mind is that the woman is actually equal to you. When you understand that the woman is not equal to you, you'll find that you start to make far more conscientious decisions, because your expectations for the woman's conduct will drop precipitously. That's why it is so important for you to not go back and forth with the woman in endless and fruitless argumentation that leads nowhere. When you understand that for the most part, the woman is just a child with breasts, you'll find that your thought process becomes much clearer. Are there exceptions to that rule? Of course. But for the most part, that's what they are.
I think he's been in maybe 3 or 4 times, and I've got proof of his arrest record.
Arrest for what?
He's been arrested for possession of drugs. He's been arrested for stealing a motor vehicle. He's been arrested.
Crack?
Yeah, that's his, yeah.
Crack.
And,
Yo, Mathis love accusing people of smoking crack. All that shit that he was allegedly doing, she was well aware of when they first became acquainted. That's the bottom line of that. Once again, so-called black men, it's up to us to change. The overall culture in the black community is up to us to change the expectations that people have for us. And when I say people, I'm talking about the people who matter, the people in your immediate circle. And most importantly, that person that you see when you look in the mirror. That's the most important person to change the expectations of. When you have high expectations for yourself, don't mean that we're going to be perfect. We're going to fuck up and make mistakes every day. But a lot of this silly shit that we get into, these things can be avoided.
yeah, so this...
Is that true, sir?
Yes, it is.
You recovering from it?
No, sir, not a user.
You're not recovering. You're still a crackhead?
I'm not a user. Nothing in that paperwork says I'm a user.
No.
This nigga sound like Cat Williams. Just here pimping, Yana.
No. Yeah, so I let him come down or whatever because he was supposed to help out with the
How many of these were you convicted of?
2.
Burglary?
Actually, I was only convicted because I was a passenger in a stolen car. I didn't steal anything. I was a passenger.
You were a pastor. Well, you got a lot of preachers who do
right?
that. Yeah.
I understand that. Wrong place at the wrong time. Things happen.
You ever find niggas like that? They always end up at the quote-unquote wrong place at the wrong time. No, officer, I was not robbing the bank. I was here to make a willful withdrawal. And all of a sudden, 3 masked men came in. I happened to know those masked men, but I was not confederate with them.
Things happen. But I was a
When were
pastor.
you ordained?
Oh, ordained? I ain't a preacher.
Say you were a pastor?
I didn't say that. I was a passenger
Oh.
in a stolen car.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say.
Mathis love clowning on these people. He stay clowning on them.
I didn't say pastor.
Oh, okay. Well, that's that Missouri accent. All right.
You knew what he said.
All right. That's that Missouri accent. My fault. All right.
Right. I wasn't supposed to be charged with a stolen car because I was a passenger.
How about this burglary?
Burglary, that's an attempted burglary. So a guy I was with.
Were you
told me-
convicted?
Huh?
Were you convicted?
Yes. Only because I allowed that to happen. I didn't want to keep going back and forth from Springfield to St. Louis.
So you
It was-
just
it
said,
was too much.
I'll just go to prison.
I want-
save myself
no,
save myself some
I accept
transportation.
it. No.
Yes, Your Honor, I decided just to go to prison. I was there, and I liked the beds. The mattresses are very comfortable. They're more comfortable than at my grandmama's house. So I said, you know what, fuck it. I'll do 6 months and just chill out.
No. I accepted
That's a
probation.
new twist on not being able to afford transportation.
But I could have won that, but it was just too much.
Come on,
Back
man.
and forth.
Come on.
Spring, it was too much. It was too much.
Yeah, Your Honor, I was getting tired. So I just told my court-appointed attorney, I said, you know, why don't you just sit your ass down? I'll just head off to jail. I like it in there.
See, even if you're not on crack, those some crackish answers you just gave me.
I concur.
And were you in and out of jail?
Yes.
She said you were in and out of jail.
Yes.
Why did you come out?
Why did I come out of jail?
Yeah, if you didn't want to keep driving back and forth, you should just stay there.
Well, how I said I have to be released at some point.
Well, not really. Do something wrong in there. And then
No.
Yeah, and I was tired of eating all those cheese sandwiches. So I said, you know what? It's time for me to go home. Let me just act right.
Oh,
That's all you got to do. 'Cause I don't buy that, sir. How many years off and on? Months off and on?
I would say off and on, it's been a total of about 4 years. So in October of last year, be quiet. October of last year, he decided that he wanted to start jumping on me or whatever. So I went ahead.
October of last year, he decided that he wanted to start jumping on you. You know what that means, brothers? And I say this all the time. Oftentimes, cats start jumping on their woman when they're in relationships that they should not have been in the first place. What do I mean by that? They don't have their own place. They don't have any type of real income that is constantly streaming in for them to empower themselves. They want to initiate relationships with lonely women. A lonely woman, if she's lonely enough, she'll give any man an opportunity. But after a while, she will start to debase that man because he has debased himself. Number one, he's not on point with his own life. And number two, he's delusional. Meaning what? He has decided to try to establish a real relationship with a woman when he does not have his own place and does not have real income, either a job or a career. Once again, brothers, do not try to establish a real relationship with a woman until you have your own place and a job or a career. Do not waste your time with that. I'm not talking about taking a little shorty out to the movies or to McDonald's or getting your little thing off or whatever. But do not allow yourself to fall into that quote-unquote real relationship paradigm until you have your shit together. Because if you do, if you fall into that same trap that too many brothers fall into, you're going to end up in a highly, highly stressful dynamic. And who knows, based off of your ability to deal with or tolerate quote-unquote verbal abuse, you may end up flipping out. Now you're going back and forth to court. because you've been involved in a domestic disturbance. You don't want that. So just to get back to the point, when she says that he decided to start jumping on her, why is that? Because he got tired of dealing with her mouth when he was the one who was in a quote-unquote real relationship with her, procreated with her, had 2 children with her, and he cannot even really provide for himself. As we've already heard from his testimony, he's a quote-unquote fuck-up. A lot of people might get mad at me saying that. But you have certain people like that. They always find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. They don't have anything real going on in their life. And now you've brought children into that confusion. So it's just chaos on top of chaos.
And I called the police because he wouldn't let me in my house. Long story short, when I called the dispatcher heard him grab my cell phone out my hand. The police came, and I've got proof.
The dispatcher heard him grab the cell phone out of your hand. I wonder how that grab sounded like.
He was so irate, they went ahead and locked him up for 24 hours.
That's not true.
They locked him up for 24 hours, not only because of what he decided to get involved with you in regards to a domestic disturbance, but they most likely ran his license or something like that, and they saw that he had so many priors, and they said, you know what, let's just throw this nigga in the bin for about 24 hours. He's used to it.
I went and got an ex-parte on him, okay?
Let's see if
So he then got released, and when he got released, his mother comes to the rescue, and that's what one of the issues are. He doesn't have to work. He doesn't have to do anything. She will do everything, pay cell phone bills.
Exactly. Now, brother, did I not tell you that he was a mama's boy? This is what happens to a lot of mama's boys who get coddled. Most likely his own mother was in a similar dynamic with a dysfunctional man. And what happens many times with the liberal black woman, she becomes so infatuated with playing the hero, the female mother goddess role, that she always wants to be involved in every aspect of her children's life, all the way into late adulthood, as opposed to them being allowed to develop into functional individuals. So that has a trickle-down effect, because now you have grown men who can't get their mouth from off their mother's titty, or they can't get their head from out their mother's ass. And that's the case with the so-called liberal black man today. He goes from a mama's boy to a simp. He has his head stuck shoulder deep up his mother's backside. And that's why he cannot understand a lot of things that's going on in society. That's why he ends up forming these corrosive, dysfunctional rapports with these liberal women. And that's why things don't change.
Let him drive her car. He's never been responsible. You know, and it's just overbearing.
Sir, you give me some background.
I give you some background. Everything she's saying is false. It's false. She brings up things from the past because things not going right. Anytime something not going right with her, she want to be childish and blamed on me.
Well, what do you expect, brother? You're dealing with a child with titties. Now, the difference is you're just a child with a mustache. A lot of people try to give me a hard time because I say that the liberal woman, and the vast majority of these females are liberal, they're just a child with titties. Well, the liberal man is just a child with a mustache. That's all he is. So you have a big baby boy with a big baby girl. That's why they're both infatuated with being children forever, and they have nothing to teach their children. Nothing to teach the children because you a child your damn self.
Nothing she says is true.
I just graduated.
She wanted me.
Now, did you hear what she just stated? The defendant just accused her of lying. He said nothing that she says is true. Now she's trying to defend herself by saying, I just graduated. What does that have to do with what he just alleged? Nothing. But as I told you, brothers, at the outset of this video, the liberal black woman tries to hide behind her piece of paper. She thinks that that validates her. She can tell how many lies, falsehoods, and project as many delusions as she wants. But as long as she has that so-called diploma or that degree, that's going to cover up for the fact that she is a fractured individual. The only way to heal that fracture is for the so-called black man to turn himself back to the Most High. Restore the order with you as the head. The woman has to follow you. It's going to be a very, very, very long process. And as I've stated in other videos, most of our people are not going to make it. But that energy has to be put out there so that a lot of brothers who don't know anything and were never taught anything, they can avoid a lot of these pitfalls. Because people turn on you in life, especially the liberal woman. Because you have to understand something. They're not dealing with reality. Their feet are not on the ground. Their feet are hovering in the air. That's why they have no sense of a foundation. Just like a witch hovers in the air. She just puts out whatever spell she wants to try to turn life into what she thinks it should be. That's the liberal woman. But I hope that you brothers paid attention to that. The defendant accused her of not being truthful. She responded back by saying she just graduated. That has nothing to do with anything.
That's fine. But she wanted me to get out the residence because I wasn't doing something she wanted me to do. I don't know.
Not working.
Well, that's going to happen when you're not bringing in an income. Let me rewind this back.
But she wanted me to get out the residence because I wasn't doing something she wanted me to do. I don't know.
Not working.
I don't know if I'm not.
And that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. If the woman decides that she wants you out because you're not bringing in an income, you deserve that. Because a man is supposed to be able to provide for himself at the very least. And if you have children, you have to be able to provide for those children. And if you can't do that, then you should not have children. It's the bottom line to that. A lot of people today are just having children because they're lonely. You can't have a child because you're lonely or because you need something to love you like it's a puppy. You know, I'm just being real. A lot of people might not like that. But that's the reason why you have so many of these black children in orphanages and who are looking to be adopted. And they end up being adopted by sadists, by molesters, by murderers. A lot of so-called black boys are being adopted by homosexual couples. What are they going to learn in a household like that? That's why I have that series, so-called Black Man, We Have to Protect Our Seed, man. When I say the seed, I'm not just talking about children. I'm also talking about sperm. We have to be careful with who you inseminate. Right? Sex is great. Women are beautiful. Right? Titties, ass, vagina. I get it. But at the same time, we have to be very, very careful with how liberal we spread our seed, man. Because it creates a confusion dynamic in the so-called black community that cannot be rectified.
That's not true. The reason why I wasn't working because I was shot. And I was sent to prison for something that I did not do.
For being shot.
You see that? That's a fuck up right there. A fuck up's always going to tell you about some wild shit. The reason why I wasn't working is because I was shot. It was of no will of my own. I was walking down the street about to play lotto numbers. Next thing I know, I felt something hot in my calf. I said, oh shit. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground. And wouldn't you know, I was walking to get my lotto numbers, and I was going to go to my job appointment. I had an interview. I couldn't make it.
Being shot?
For being shot. Basically, for being shot. I didn't know that she was going to say all this.
What they charge you with being shot? I don't see that charge.
They charged me with getting
arrested. I don't see the charge.
Dude say he went to jail for being shot.
Being shot.
Getting arrested. They charge you
for getting arrested.
Exactly.
Oh man, said they charged me with getting arrested. Okay, what was the charge? The charge was I've been arrested.
That's one act in and of itself.
They did. It's #1 laws. You're not supposed to come in contact with law enforcement. #1 laws. That's a violation, and I was violated.
Wow, she chose a real winner right here. Brothers, we gotta do a little better than this, man. That's why I make a lot of these videos. Once again, none of us are perfect, but I mean, damn. This brother has 2 sons in the world. Who is he gonna teach with some shit like this? You know, imagine they come of age, they walk up to him, Daddy, why was you locked up? They locked me up for being arrested. They put me under lock and key and detained me for being locked up. Don't ask me any more questions. Now go get me a glass of water.
Sir, give me your work history, sir.
I had plenty of jobs.
All right, give me. Where did you work in 2015?
2015, I was working for a temp service.
2014.
2014, I was working.
Where?
I was working for a temp service.
2013.
2013, I was working for a temp service.
All right. Have you had a permanent job?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. I had a permanent job, but it was temporary because I was at the temp service.
Yes, I have.
What years?
All them years.
No, you just said 13, 14, and 15. Sir,
14.
You coming across like a crackhead. Trying to sound more and more like a crackhead, sir. Trying to give you the benefit.
She got all her
Tell me
nice
about
little
your.
paper.
That's
That's
enough.
fine.
Why are you suing for a truck in emotional distress?
I bought the truck. What happened was his cousin.
You know somebody about to tell you some bullshit when they say what happened was.
His cousin had a truck. The cousin went to jail. The aunt called and said, hey, I don't have the money to get the truck out of tow. So I paid for the truck. The arrangement was she had 30 days to give me the money back for the truck. If she didn't within that 30 days, then I would get the, sell the truck. When I moved about a week and a half after that, because we got into it, we just weren't getting along. So I moved with my cousin. So I have proof of that, okay? Well, during that time, he sold the truck and didn't give me any money. So then a month later comes, I go to get the truck, and he's like, oh, I already sold it. So I see his friend Termite driving the truck, and I'm like, Termite, how much Eric sell you the truck? Termite, that's his nickname. How much he sell you the truck for? He like $2,500. And I'm like, Eric, you sold the truck for $2,500, didn't give me nothing. I paid the $500, I paid the $2,500. He didn't give me anything for it. My cousin is a witness. I have a statement from my cousin. My brother is here. I also have a witness statement from my other cousin that heard the whole altercation.
Let's see those statements in the
yes, sir.
And the emotional distress.
And the emotional distress is because he stalks me. He just calls me, talks bad to me. I've got a voicemail of it. He goes around and makes things up, and he's just distraught because he don't have his life together and don't want to get it together.
They need to play one of them voicemails. Look, bitch, if you ever steal my car again, I promise you I'm going to get locked up for getting arrested. I promise you that shit.
Tell me about the truck, sir.
The truck, that did happen. My cousin did call me and ask me to get the truck out the tow yard. I was the one that got the truck out the tow yard, and my auntie, we're not going to talk about her, but she wanted it back. I don't know where she got this paperwork from. That's not true.
Yeah, how did you become owner, ma'am? That's something.
Well,
right.
what happened was
the title ever transferred?
It was never
Now, she said what happened was again, so you know some bullshit is coming.
Never transferred. No. He took the title, and it was still at his house, the keys and the.
Do you have
truck.
Anything from the previous owner saying
the previous
that you
owner?
were the owner?
She didn't even get it registered. This is who had it, which is his cousin.
You never became owner, man.
It was only he never. Nobody did.
Well, then how are you suing him then?
I'm suing him because I bought the vehicle,
but
and
he wasn't the owner.
But he still sold it.
And you're not the owner either.
But he still sold it.
You can't buy something. All right, you don't own it, so I don't know how he could have taken something from you that you never owned.
That's what you get. Now, see, she's in the process of dealing on the up and up. But she's accustomed to dealing with shit on the down. So in other words, she just exchanging cash and hand to hand and just taking vehicles and not verifying change of title and stuff like that. So that's what the defendant, that's what her baby daddy, that's what he's accustomed to. So for somebody who's trying to get her life on the up and up, she should have made sure that she had her paperwork in order.
You never owned it. What part of you missed? Right. So nobody gets a dime. You didn't own it, and neither did he. So I don't know why we're here. Emotional distress, is that for him hitting you or for him following you around?
Yeah,
when was that?
Everything. He hit me on October, and these are voicemails from him calling me. You can hear the audio if you like to.
Well,
a proof of that. For him not helping me with the kids, I've had to go file child support. He refuses to help.
The assault is all I'm going to consider.
Yeah, it's all
what property did she steal from you, sir? Sir, what property did she steal from you?
All of my clothes on Easter Sunday. I called the police.
Can you believe this shit, Yana? Woke up Easter Sunday, my rabbit ears, my eggs was gone. I said, ain't this a bitch?
She dropped the kids off to me Friday before Easter. She dropped the kids off with me. Then, on Easter Sunday, a guy down the street seen me with another female, so he called her cousin, who he talks to. She immediately jumped in her car, came all the way over to my residence when I was going to the store, took all my belongings, and then called me on the phone and told me she done it. I said, oh yeah, so I went in the house, seen all my things was gone, I called 911. An officer came there, I explained to them what happened. He asked me where she was. I said, she don't stay in St. Louis, she stay in Springfield, Missouri. And I said, okay, she left the kids here. She took my belongings but didn't take the kids. So if I'm a deadbeat father and all this, why do I have my kids with me? That's what I'm telling the officers. We had a nice conversation.
Yeah, we had a nice conversation, Yana. I knew him. I know that officer. That's Officer Jeff. He arrested me back in 2016, 2013, 2011. So I know him. I know his birthday, everything.
Talking cash was it?
I had maybe $500-600 in my wallet and all of my property.
You have, ma'am. He sound.
Yeah, Jan, I have $500-600 in my wallet. A couple of Easter eggs was missing. I'm mad as hell.
He sounds very
They
convincing.
didn't put him in the property.
He also said he works too, sir.
So he never.
I didn't say I
Where
worked.
he get this
I
money
didn't
from?
say I worked.
Because he not
not
worked.
one
He's
time.
not worked in years.
I did not say I was working. I say I was shot.
Where these clothes coming from?
I say I was shot. My uncle gave it to me. My uncle gave it to me because I had to leave her residency because she had me arrested. She had me arrested for false charges. She didn't.
Well, brother, when you decide that you're going to live with a female and you don't have any real income, at least nothing on the up and up, then you basically are living at the whims of a woman, aka a nightmare. Brothers, once again, Ecclesiasticus, the 25th chapter, man. When a woman maintains a man, she has an impudent eye towards that man. All right? Very, very disrespectful, disregarding. And that's natural because they expect a man to be able to provide for himself. If you cannot provide for yourself, do not initiate and do not tolerate any attempts at a serious relationship with a woman. Because the woman is like an onion. They have layers, and every layer is a different face.
She didn't want me to stay in the property, so then she recalled them and told them that I put my hands on her to have me arrested.
Says that he was not going to let her take her son until he got his ID and some clothing
And
back.
my clothes.
So he is telling the police, ma'am, that he admits to not wanting to return the children until you give him his clothes. So that suggests you did have his things.
Judge, can I please speak, Judge?
Judge, can I ask a
You've been
question?
talking for a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who broke into his mother's house? And if his kids were at home and I'm supposedly the one that came in there, how was anybody able to take anything? And where
I have text messages,
Where is any
proof that show that
Where?
she took my belongings.
Your Honor, Exhibit A.
My belongings
Oh,
told me
okay.
she sold them
Oh,
to pay
okay.
for a credit card.
That's the stuff that was at my
That's
house.
true.
That was the stuff at my house that I bought.
How is that in your house? That's a call from.
Plaintiff, I hate you forever. You are heartless. I pray you just die. And this is you, and you want money for him from what he said to you.
But listen.
Exactly. Thank you. Judge Mathis is letting the plaintiff know you have the nerve to talk about verbal abuse with the things that you're saying to that man. Once again, I speculate, and I might be wrong, but I doubt it. I speculate that the reason why the defendant eventually got physical with her was due to the level of verbal abuse. Once again, brothers, whatever you tolerate is what you deserve. You're not supposed to tolerate any form of verbal disrespect. And in the same way, we can't go around verbally disrespecting people that we care about and love and are in relationships with. We're going to have disagreements, but when people decide that they're going to start cursing and carrying on and calling you out of your name, it's only going to get worse from there. All right? A woman that's wife material will not try to attack the masculine principle. When you hear a lot of these low-level females talking about men this and men that, that's nothing but a concubine. That's all that is. That is a concubine. All right? At the most, might be less than that, because you actually have concubines that are of higher levels and different degrees. But the main thing that a wife material woman will always do, she will always respect the masculine principle, and she will always mind how she comes out of her mouth. And even if she does have a slip up here or there, she's going to quickly check herself and she's going to apologize. Because we all make mistakes, but at the end of the day, a woman coming out of her mouth all type of ways and being disrespectful and trying to instigate physical confrontations, that's a low-level concubine. Might not even be a concubine at all.
But listen
God,
to the voice.
please, God, no, you listen.
Okay.
Please, God, take him away from this earth. Then you say, I'm just praying for it. I'm going to marry that man and make sure he adopts my kids so we don't ever have to associate ourselves with the boys. You don't want him to associate with his own
Why
kids.
was they in my house?
Then, are you...
Good question, sir. If he's such a terrible father, why were the kids at his house? But once again, brothers, there are a lot of ways to avoid silly shit like this.
I use that money for my credit card
Right,
bill.
where's that stuff?
Get over it and step your game up. Get over what? Me
But
taking
wait
your
a minute.
things. Wait. Your claim is dismissed. Your claim is dismissed. And yours is granted. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Keep it pimping.
Yes, sir. That's bologna, and I don't even like bologna. I like turkey ham, thank you. I don't eat bologna anymore.
My baloney has a first name. Spell EX-WIFE. Goodbye. Keep it pimping.
And you're full of it.
But you the one living in your mama house.
Yes, I am, because you put me out because
that's you the one.
I'm a junkie.
Scared to go outside and
why is my kids with me right now? Why is my kids at my mama house right now? Oh, did I beg
so
for them? Yes, because I begged for them so my kids can be with their father.
Stop calling me.
Yes,
all
I
right,
will.
Thank you.
Have my kids call me, please. Still love you. Thank you.
That's basically it on that, brothers. But once again, we have to protect ourselves at all times, man. Very important. All right? So peace.